Great. Thanks again, everyone, for joining in. We appreciate you taking out 30 minutes from your busy schedule with us for us today. Um, I'll start with a quick introduction. My name is Simranjeet Singh, and I work as an account executive at Strongpoint. Like all of you, I'm a trailblazer myself. Prior to Strongpoint, I've worked with Salesforce for about 3 years. Completely love the platform and its capabilities. Yeah, the topic of the webinar, I guess, is not new to maybe some of us, and it's becoming more and more pressing as the platform grows. We've heard a lot about it from our customers, and which is why we thought, sharing some of our learnings with all of you. So here's our agenda for the session today. I'll start by introducing technical debt and some of its causes, talk about its business impact in context to Salesforce. Then I'll set the stage for the demo by talking through some of the strategies for addressing technical debt, including automated documentation, cleanup, change review, which you'll kind of see live in the last 10 to 15 minutes. I really hope that you all find the session meaningful. If there are any questions, please keep posting them in the chat window, and I'll answer them towards the end. So technical debt explained in the easiest form is the extra cost or effort associated with any rework activity that we generally undertake because of our previous decision on choosing either a limited or an easier solution. In other words, like I've mentioned it on the slide, it could be because of our previous implementation decisions. Now, it is not something that will make our system stop, but definitely, it makes us slower to make some critical decisions on org improvements. We cannot avoid it fully, but yeah, we can prevent it from getting out of our hand. And also, it is not 1 day, 1 month, or a year's effort. It is a continuous process, and it requires buy-in from everyone that is responsible to manage Salesforce as a platform at your company. A classic example that comes to my mind, it's a situation where over a period of time, you have multiple teams who have worked onto your instance, and with no or probably very minimal governance in place, we just kept adding fields on the account or opportunity object, without ever considering a thought that we should, probably look at removing certain fields that are not being used. And now we are at a point where we hit governance limits and we cannot add anything more on the object. Now, with this base definition in mind, let's look at some of the causes of technical debt. One of the reasons why we all love the platform is its agility or ease of customization. Now, this benefit becomes an issue as we keep making small modifications to our core objects or probably add new objects. And a lot of times we even tend to build a lot of customizations, which are sometimes unnecessary, or try to get as many business processes mapped to Salesforce. Now, this eventually leads us to a stage where we have multiple dependencies between these customizations, and we have very less visibility within the system. And we have now reached a point where it takes a lot of investigation to even make a tiny change in the system. Now, the second reason is frequent changes in business processes. What was probably important 5 years ago, 3 or 2 years ago, is not important now. And therefore, we have to adapt Salesforce to meet our current business needs, which means we are either making changes to existing customizations, or majority of time we just end up adding new customizations. And this reason kind of leads us to the next cause. In order for us to achieve such changes, which generally are time bound, we often deploy short-term workarounds. And by short-term workarounds, what I mean is that instead of thinking on the right design, we look at quick alternatives. So instead of using a standard out-of-the-box functionality, we end up making something custom. And these workarounds then later create dependencies that are difficult to deal with, not just for us, but yeah, for our entire team. The next reason is competency. Salesforce, as we all know, changes at a very rapid pace. We have new products that are coming in 3 new releases every year. And this morning, I just saw a notification for Spring 20 release, readiness. And if we are not up to speed on the platform itself, if we don't know the extent of standard functionality, or if we are not aware of what's coming in the future releases, we sometimes fail to plan retiring some of the custom built functionalities because of all these points, because something might come as out of the box, which and our custom functionality can be retired. Or a lot of times we are not using best practices, or we fail to check if there is an app exchange app that could serve the purpose. Now, the last 2 points, governance and tribal knowledge, are also 2 strong reasons. And a lot of time businesses think that governance slows them down. But in reality, some of the most successful companies using Salesforce have a strong governance framework in place. Having controls around change, design, and org strategy kind of reduces our chances for accumulating technical debt. And when people who have all the knowledge of our org move out of the company, and we don't have proper documentation or awareness on governing processes, we actually incur technical debt, not just from what was done, but for the knowledge that we just lost. And this list kind of can go on, and it could vary from company to company. So, all of you on the call might relate to some or probably all of them. But yeah, these are some of the causes that we have seen, with our customers. Now, as we know about the causes of technical debt, let's look at its business impact. And this is what Salesforce thinks the business impact of technical debt is. I cited a few examples in my previous slide, so I'll quickly skim through the points here. But overall, Salesforce categorizes business impact in 3 buckets. With extensive customization and no cleanup activities, we start getting into technical issues like having difficulties in scaling up, not just in user count, not actually in user count, but to meet changes to our business processes. We start hitting our governance limits, or sometimes our highly customized app becomes incompatible to third-party apps as they don't support some of the customizations we have made. Now, this lowers the overall value that we can get from the platform, as we cannot quickly adapt to changes. And moreover, some of our users might have a bad experience. And I'm sure a lot of us in the call have seen layout pages with fields that we have probably never used, or have used the controller functionality to find a specific field on the screen, or sometimes too many tabs in the home pages, or even trying to find the right report in a bunch of reports, just to find the one that you actually need. This really impacts user adoption, and with heavy customization, it takes time, or in some cases, we cannot benefit from the new functionalities that Salesforce brings every year. And a great example that we keep hearing, just on this point, is migration to Lightning, and I'm sure some of you on the call might also be in a similar boat at this point. Now, the last point on total cost of ownership is tough to measure, but technical debt really adds to maintenance and any new project costs. And I know that these points are a little broad, but yeah, it can be used as a foundation to build a justification plan around tech debt review within your companies. You can look at impact areas that relate to your company, and then deep dive on reasons for each. Now, in terms of strategies around technical debt, we really think of it as a continuous effort or a progression. We obviously cannot give up everything, from our day-to-day schedule to work full blown on this. But yeah, we can take this up one step at a time, and that's how most of our customers have seen success. So the first thing that acts as an early measure is to question our design approach. And there's a lot that Salesforce teaches us here, and Trailhead obviously is a good resource. But some of the key things include asking questions like, can we use a standard functionality here? Or is this as per Salesforce best practices? Or is there an app exchange app available, that can serve the purpose instead of making that customization? And from a base design perspective, you can think of using some quick fixes like use the description field to add your comments when you build a customization, so that not only you but yeah your entire team knows why this was made today or tomorrow at a later stage. Also stay up to date on release notes, look at ways to retire custom functionalities, and very importantly, identify your power users, and conduct regular audits to get a sense of what is working and what should be changed in the org from a UI perspective. These things I know look basic, but yeah, it could be a great starting point, just to perform certain activities around technical debt in your orgs. Now, the second strategy is automating your org documentation, and by doing so, we can look at all of the org metadata and its dependencies in a simple visual format. Also, we can keep that documentation always up to date automatically. So, no manual effort needed at all, no Excel sheets, and also make it available in various forms so that all of our team, not just us, can access it very easily. Make it available within Salesforce so that you don't need any skills to use it on a day-to-day basis, and everybody can use it to understand complexity, measure any downstream risk, and take actions around any change that comes our way. So the next time we get any change request or any user story, or we are fixing a bug, we can easily validate whether removing, modifying, or adding a field is risky or not just within seconds. This really helps us have a better control on our org strategy, and I'll show you this tool live, in a demo in a while. The third strategy is around automating your risk decisioning. So a major chunk of our analysis time or cost of technical debt goes into identification of risk. Now, this is either for existing customizations, some of which we can't touch because of the way they are built, or it could be on new requests which are coming from business. And a lot of times these requests take days or even months to get through because we are not able to do the initial triage. Now, by automating this process, we enable our teams of admins and BAs to do risk and impact analysis within seconds. And we provide all of this functionality to you within Jira and ServiceNow tickets itself, so that you can answer your questions super quickly and in a way that's a lot more safer. And one of our customers recently mentioned that it's not about getting your change approved faster, but what matters is getting it approved reliably. So what they found after implementing Strongpoint, they're able to ask better questions amongst themselves, and which cause better decisions to be made later on. Now, the third strategy is to perform continuous org audit and run systematic cleanup, building a process around cleanup projects, right from identification of low-hanging fruits to planning and approval. We can look at building adoption dashboards right within Salesforce, and also use a lot of tools to identify unused customizations like fields and reports. Now, since I've covered these four strategies with all of you, now let me show you some of the tools that I just spoke about in a live demo. So first thing first, Strongpoint is 100% native managed package. And it's available right on the App Store, App Exchange. And we help you document your system, manage change, clean up your org, and build governance. What you're seeing now is our home screen. And this is where you can access all the tools and reports that I'll show you today. At the core of our tool is an indexing engine, or in easy words, it's actually a scanner that scans and keeps a continuous watch on your org metadata. When you install Strongpoint for the first time, this could take about 3 to 5 days, depending on the complexity of your system. And after that, it keeps running automatically. What you see here on the left-hand side is the status of the same scanner that I just mentioned. And you also have the option to run it manually, just in case if you need it. And over here, we provide you some quick information about your org, your customizations, your dependencies, workflows, and some information about your logins. Now, the first output from the scanner tool is the documentation, and we call this as a dependency relationship diagram or a DRD. Always up to date, and this is how you access it. I can just select any standard or custom object, and what I see is a list of fields that exist on this object. And further, if I need to research any downstream dependencies on, let's say, the company's social media field, I can just click on it. What I see as a high-level info is who is the owner of the field, type of the field, so multi-pick list, the date last used, and its connected dependencies. So this field is available in few layouts, a simple report, and a list view. So if I'm an admin or a dev person, and if I get a request from business to make a change to this field, then I would say this is a less risky change because of the dependencies. Whereas if I have a request coming in to make a change to the maintenance type field, it has some similar attributes. It is a multi-pick list owned by a different person, recently used. But when you look at the dependencies, it's available in few layouts. It's available in a lot of reports and list views. I also see it's available in a high value customer report, which probably is being used by management or finance. It's also connected to an Apex class, a process builder, and a workflow rule. So this clearly means that there is sufficient amount of dependencies on this field, and any change or if we plan to make any change to this field, we need some more research. Now, there are a few value areas of using this. Straightforward, you no longer have to use Excel sheets to create or maintain our documentation. No errors at all, and better utilization of your time. And the concern that I mentioned about tribal knowledge in my slide just a while ago, it completely goes away. As anyone, literally anyone in your team, whether the person is new or old, can use this to confirm how risky the change is. And overall, it kind of speeds up your entire change process. A lot of our customers use this as part of their daily or weekly calls as a foundation to plan any org changes. Now, the second output from the scanner tool is customization records. Now, along with the documentation, Strongpoint will create customization records for each customization in your system. One way to access it is right from the DRD, just by clicking this button. But I'll show you another way to look at your customization records. Now, this is our Finder tool, and you can use it to view dependencies and some more information, about customization records. I can either search a specific customization by text, its API name, by its type, or we have provided you some more filters. Now, if I type maintenance type here, the same field that we just saw in the DRD, I can see the results right here. And I'll open this record. And just as an example, I'll take another example just by searching for a customization type, let's say reports. And if I hit find, I can see customization records of all the reports in my system. And I'll take an example of the California customer report, which I'll show you in a while. But the first record that I wanted to talk about is the maintenance type field. And we looked at it in the DRD. But the customization record gives me additional information about the metadata. I can see the date last used. It's a multi-pick list. Who created it, timestamp, date stamp. Who modified it, timestamp, date stamp. And I can also see the dependencies here. I can see the usage rate of this field. Now, this is valuable info, to not only measure risk, but to also plan any cleanup initiative. And as we are native to Salesforce, you can easily pull all this information into a report. So let's say all the fields on the account object, and you can have columns like date last used, number of records, usage rate, and dependency information, just in case if you're planning any cleanup initiative. I can also see the DRD of this specific customization. We saw this in the previous DRD, but that was the DRD for the entire account object. But this just shows you the DRD of the customization. And since our scanner keeps a track for all changes that happen to the metadata, we start creating these change logs for you. These logs start appearing from the day you install Strongpoint, and we give you it helps you with the entire history of any change that has happened to this customization, whether it was creation or an edit. We also flag whether this was approved or not, and it's linked to a policy and a change request, which I'll talk about in a while. But yeah, if I open this log over here, I can get into more details about who made the change and when exactly the change was made. I can see the operation, whether it was an edit or a creation, and I can see a complete diff, a parallel comparison, and a side-by-side comparison right here. It's really useful to track your change history, sometimes track any risky behavior of some users, or a lot of our customers also use this to keep a track of changes being made to any changes being made to any risky customizations. And you can think of change monitoring as a preventive measure, or control towards technical debt. Now, as another example, here is the California customers report, customization record that I opened. And I have similar information about the metadata, the data used, who created it, timestamp, date-stamp, and all this information. And I can see the DRD right here. This is the DRD just for the report. So all these exist as columns on the report. And over here, I can see the change logs. And as an example for this log, which is an edit log, if I open it, I note that Brian, on 13 September 2018, went into the system and made this change. It was an edit operation. And what he did was he went in and added maintenance type as a field, maintenance type as a column. And I can see, again, a parallel comparison and a side-by-side comparison. We provide, these customization records are not just limited to your reports and fields, but yeah, it's for every metadata type, be it process builder, report types, your Apex class, anything and everything, that exists in Salesforce. Now, you might have also noticed that every change log is linked to a policy, and the other one was linked to a change request as well. And this happens automatically, and I'll talk about it in a while. Now, with policies, we start getting into compliance and platform governance. Again, as we are native to Salesforce, we have the flexibility to customize policies as per standards in your company. You can define change control for your customizations. For example, in this default policy, we have kept log changes only control level, for reports and list views, and this would not require any approvals. You can also define who can approve what level of change control. This can be set up very easily, and our success team can obviously help you with the best practices here. Now, in order for you to take up a change project in Salesforce, you can use change request as a functionality. Now, what you can do is simply add the customizations into a change ticket that you can open up within Strongpoint. Our system will provide you a change level based on the overall dependencies of these customizations, and then you can submit this change ticket for approval. Now, within a change request, you have the capability, you can obviously see all the approvers before you submit the ticket for approval, but yeah, you have the capability to view the DRD again. Now this DRD will show up for all three customizations together. I can see this information, both as someone who is creating the ticket or someone who's approving it. And I can also review the risk or impact of this change. So we provide you automatically what can be safely deleted and what cannot be safely deleted, classified by wordings and its impacted customizations. If we use Jira and ServiceNow as your ticketing system, and I mentioned a little about this in my slide, our integration will provide you capability within Jira and ServiceNow. So you'll be able to add these customizations right then and there in your ticket, view the DRD within your ticket, and also your impact analysis within your ticket. What we do in the back end, as your Jira or ServiceNow ticket gets approved, we create a Strongpoint ticket within your Salesforce instance, and then we link both of them together so that from a compliance standpoint, you have things in place. Now, I will wrap up my demo by showing you some reports. Again, as we are native, you can think of pulling up any report on everything that I showed you today. But yeah, starting with what changed report, this gives you an overview of everything that has changed in your system. You can add your own set of columns, but over here we have added a column on change log so that you can deep dive if you want. We provide, like, you have information whether it was approved or not approved, what customization it impacted. We also provide you information by type, and then you can see who made the change and the complete diff, and also if it's linked to a change request. So really useful, again, to keep a track, and it's just a thought. You can think of making different reports, based on your requirements. Another report which is important is the unused field report and the scan. The report that I'm showing you here, you can filter it by days, let's say 130 days or 360 days or more. Look at the date last used, look at the total records, look at percentage utilization, and you can identify your low-hanging fruits. Now, what I've done here is I've just added a filter to show up reports, so show up fields that have 0% utilization rate, grouped by different objects. So this becomes a good report for us to plan or investigate a cleanup initiative. And then you can, we provide you a process for you to add this to a cleanup project or a cleanup change request, and then you can submit it for approvals, view the impact analysis, view the entire DRD, and everything else that I showed you in the change request. And the last functionality that I wanted to touch upon is on automated report cleanup. It's a simple rule-based engine that helps you run this automatically. You have a set of filters, which we have defined over here in the summary. And there are some inclusions and exclusions. You can check mark the small button here so that it notifies your owners prior to archiving. There are some filters below as well, where you can select reports owned by a certain set of people who are active and a set of people who are inactive. And if I run this report, or if I run this rule and preview, what I see is a list of reports that are part of the rule, obviously, and can be cleaned up. Now I can run this, or I can automate this rule. If I run this, what will happen is it will notify all the users before cleaning up. They obviously have the option to either remove their report from the cleanup. And again, this runs automatically. So this was a high-level overview of how our tool relates back to some of the tech debt challenges and strategies that I spoke about. I guess we are more or less on time. I'll go back to my slide, and then we can look at some questions. So I think my colleague has been answering a lot of questions here. But yeah, I can see an open question, around approvals in Jira. So the question is, if we have approvals in Jira, do we have to use them in Strongpoint? A simple answer is, so we are quite flexible and mostly try to align ourselves to your existing change process. So if you feel the approvals in Jira are sufficient, then we will not create them in Strongpoint. And once your Jira ticket gets approved, your Strongpoint ticket will also get approved automatically. And we will link both of them, like I showed you in the demo. There's another question on component deletions and renaming. And what we can do is, I honestly don't have a an answer on top of my mind at this point, but yeah, we can come back to you on this, and give a response back. Happy to take up any more questions if there are, or otherwise I would say thank you so much for your time again. And I like I said, I hope this session was meaningful, and all of you had certain takeaways. I think we have another question, I guess. There are some more questions which are coming in, and I guess my colleague Ryan is answering them. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can drop us a note, obviously, um, and yes, for the people who are asking for pricing, we will definitely get back to you. And I think there's another question. So there's a question if there's a way to track or report on data prior to implementation of Strongpoint. Unfortunately, no. So a lot of functionalities that I showed you today start working from the day you have installed Strongpoint. So we will not be able to trace back any prior change logs or any prior documentation that you have in your system. So sadly, no at this point. Awesome. So thanks again, everyone. We are just above time. Really thank you all of you for joining in. If there are any more questions, you can drop us a note. But yeah, I hope the session was meaningful, and we all have some takeaways from here. Thanks again.